Welcome to this video. My name is Maximilian from the giant world of tiny things, and today we're going to create some stunningly colorful macros of fall foliage. And even though this video is a little bit late and many parts of the northern hemisphere already have had their first snow, nevertheless I went out for a walk this morning here in southern Ontario, and I went into the woods where there is less snow and more leaves, and I was able to gather a whole stack of beautiful subjects that we'll be photographing today. And I've got a really simple concept in mind for today's video. I want to create a series of images all showing different leaves and gradients and textures, but all leaves staged in the same way. And the setup I'm thinking of is a backlight to imitate the setting sun or the light of the morning sun. When it comes from a low angle and it hits the leaf from in behind, it just looks like the whole tree is on fire. And that is the look I want to replicate in the series. So I want to get in really close, focus on the structure and the patterns and the actual skeleton of the leaf, and still show off its vibrant colors. And conveniently, backlight is also the best way to achieve this, because if you would front light it, the waxy layer on the leaves would reflect and probably create some glare in the lens or on the lens. So let's talk about the setup before we get started. We will use some focus stacking because the leaves aren't perfectly flat, so we need to extend the depth of field if we want the whole frame in focus, and that's definitely what I want. So this is why I've got my camera mounted to this focusing slider on this desk clamp. The camera I'm using is my 5D Mark II, which is reliable, a full frame camera and not very susceptible to diffraction softening. The lens I'm using is a manual 28mm Albenar lens mounted to roughly 1 inch of extension tubes / adapters. And that brings me as close as 2.5 times life size, which is plenty enough to fill the frame with the subject and bring out some great detail. And the subject is being held in place by the soldering station, which also holds my focusing aid, which is very convenient. The lens is set to f11, the camera settings are ISO 100 and 100 of a second, and I'm triggering the camera with this intervalometer to make sure that I don't miss with the composition or the alignment of the single frames. In behind the subject we've got the light source, which is a DIY light box that holds a speed light remotely triggered by this trigger right here. It diffuses the speed light and then emits a diffuse light right in behind the subject. Before you get started, make sure you wash your leaves. I already washed mine with cold water, and additionally I've got a little feather right here. You can use a paintbrush or a makeup brush, and if you speck dirt on your composition, just brush it off. This saves you a lot of work in post-processing. Now that's about it. Let's find a nice composition and zoom into our subject. But I'm not actually going to make you watch me take dozens of focus stacks and hundreds of images. Instead, I'll fast forward this and show you a slideshow of images that I'll have taken by the time you watch this video. They are all post-processed and focus stacked, and I really hope you enjoyed them. If you enjoyed them and the creative input in this video, leave me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time in another video. Cheers!